Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first episode of the Westworld Westcast podcast. I'm your host, Carmine of Red Team Review.
Westcast. Okay.
I mean, we're doing Picardcast, right? So Westcast, why not, right? I'm your host, Carmine of Red Team Review, and I'm joined here once again by the illustrious Preston Jacobs. And we're back doing Westworld. I'm not that excited.
Can you believe it's been so long? Can you believe?
It's been so long.
I do have to say that it's not the best time for Westworld to come out.
What do you mean? I feel like it's the best time.
Well,
everybody's indoors. What is everybody gonna do?
Well, I mean in that sense, but I'm saying like plot-wise, like Westworld's about tearing the whole system down. And like right now, things are really shaky all over the world. We're really all worried. The last thing we want is the system to fall apart. Like when you're actually faced with the system falling apart, you're like, no, don't really like that. Well, like when everything's secure, you're like, yeah, Armageddon. Let's shake things up.
That's so true. Yeah, that's not even a joke. How true that is. Yeah.
Like there's nothing. I don't want to watch disaster movies right now. I want things to be nice. Nice. I guess it was good that Disney released like Frozen 2, something nice.
And Rise of Skywalker again, so we can all kill ourselves again. Yay!
Oh,
Yay! But guys, welcome back to the Westworld Westcast podcast. As a handful. As always, we're available on SoundCloud and iTunes, so consider checking us out on those platforms. And if you do check us out on iTunes, then please leave us a review. It would help out a lot. Also, I think we're on Spotify now too. I don't fucking know. And be sure to follow. I know. Be sure to follow Preston.
You don't even know what the algorithm's doing.
I don't even know what the algorithm's doing. And be sure to follow Preston on social media, especially on Twitter, because sometimes YouTube likes to fuck us over and not send our videos out to subscribers. So the best way to keep up to date with that is to, follow us on social media. Preston, what's your Twitter handle again? Preston Jacobs 89,000.
Sweet Robin 9000.
Sweet Robin 9000. I was close this time. I'm gonna get it one of these days. Yeah. Sweet Robin 9000 on Twitter. Okay, so Preston, this episode, first impressions, good, bad.
Well, obviously I was wanting something more in a Western theme.
Of course, Westworld.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of loops and themes back to previous episodes. Like if you're very familiar with Westworld, you can see a lot of the parallel structures and a lot of the parallel storytelling. It's definitely building off of the previous ideas. In fact, I kind of feel like if you didn't have that previous base, it wouldn't be that interesting.
I actually am inclined to agree with you 110%. You see, the problem is with Westworld is that the show is so obsessed and so just... They just want to like put in like symbology and just like random ass references to philosophy and they just want to throw in plot twists every now and then, and it can be cool, but as season 2 taught us, an overabundance of that can be a real like issue because my God, going back to season 2 was such a mess. I don't know if I feel the same way if I could binge all of the episodes in one go, but
but it's kind of like with Jesse, Caleb, Aaron Paul's character, like every day when he wakes up, staring up like Dolores did when she woke up in her loops, and every day he's trying to break his loop, like he's trying to like get out of the system and rise up and can't. Like it doesn't make any sense if you hadn't seen the first season and understood what Dolores was doing,
right?
Like how she was stuck in a loop and, had to break out, or at the end, and we're jumping to the end here, spoilers, but at the end when he realizes that he has to let his dead friend go, like if you don't remember Bernard letting the idea of Charlie go, and it holding him back, like you find out that Francis is Caleb's keystone memory, right? Mm-hmm. And so
and he's going through therapy and using Francis's like voice to like help him,
right? And he's thinking, like, they keep telling him that Francis is part of the therapy, but in fact, like if it's his keystone memory and he needs to like get rid of the keystone memory in order to advance and like grow as a human being, then all that they were trying to hold him back, and he was actually like wanting to go forward. So it's like I appreciate it. I think it's kind of cool, but like I say, I think a new viewer or one that doesn't remember season 1 very well or hasn't rewatched season 1 like wouldn't get all the stuff and appreciate it, because it's subtle. I mean, it's subtle that like, oh, Caleb is doing the same thing as Bernard, or Caleb is doing the same thing as Dolores. It's not completely apparent, the first time you watch
Hell,
it.
it's not apparent. It wasn't apparent to me. I didn't even catch that. That's actually pretty good.
Right.
I need to rewatch season 1. I probably should have, but that was pretty good actually. Good on you, man. Did you rewatch it recently?
Yeah, no, I watched the episode twice, and it was only like the first time through, I got that he was in a loop. And he was trying to break out of the loop, just like Dolores, because he's like waking up and he's staring at the camera in the same way, because that's pretty obvious. But then it didn't occur to me until the second time through that when he lets go of Francis, that Bernard did the same thing at the end of the season when he let go of Charlie, and that he had to like get beyond his keystone memory in order to grow, So. And so, like, my second time through, I definitely liked it more than the first time through. I'll tell you that. But,
well, would you argue that like Caleb is like an amalgamation of Bernard and Dolores' like whole thing from seasons 1 and 2?
Yeah, I mean, he's supposed to represent the everyman, like which is Aaron Paul's character, right? It's Jesse.
Yeah, he's the everyman in every like role he ever gets.
Yeah, like you look at him and you're just like, yeah, I could be that guy. He's the bathroom sign. Like he's very good at being the bathroom sign. Like that's me. Mm-hmm. He's not too macho, but he's macho enough. Like he's not too good looking, but he's good looking. Like there's all these little things, right?
Yeah.
He's perfect at being like, well, I mean. Okay, in reality, he is really good looking, but compared to like other people on TV, you're like, no, that's an average guy.
Yeah.
So
like his life sucks, but he's not moping around at home. He's actually going out and doing some stuff, and he's doing some bad things, criminal things, but they're not overly criminal.
Yeah, and I think we've jumped to him because he was the best part of the episode, right? Like he's the most intriguing. Yeah, I mean, it was the same with Breaking Bad, like, right? You just want to get back to Jesse. So
really? You always want to get back to Jesse? I really wanted to find out what's going on with Walt.
Walt was good, but I feel he was like, I mean, in my opinion, he was like second fiddle. Like,
interesting. This is gonna cause quite the stir in the comment section. Cause
I'm sure. But yeah, you want to get back to him. You want him to succeed. You want him to do. He seems like he seems like the average Joe that's down on his luck that you want to see succeed. Who seems like a good guy, even though he's forced into situations where he's not a good guy,
And I gotta say, we're just gonna call him Jesse because he's fucking Jesse forever. It's like the guy who played Kramer in Seinfeld. He's Kramer forever. Yeah. Nice try. But with Jesse, I don't know. Even though he's a new character, he's cool and all, but I kind of missed Maeve. Maeve really left a hole in this episode for me. Even though she appears at the very end, I kind of wanted to see what was going on.
I was about to say, you did watch after the credits, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Of course, she's in Nazi World or wherever the hell that is. She's in.
I think they call it War World. Which
what do they call it?
Kind of a tongue twister. War World.
War World.
Yeah, which I think is a World War II simulation.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I really wanted to find out what was going on with her, but I'm assuming she's hiding out in the park still.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big surprise, right? Because she was dead at the end of season 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of get this like look between Felix and Sylvester about what they're going to do with her. Because I think they say like, oh, we got to start repairing all this stuff. And I think they give each other like some knowing look that, are they just going to resurrect her again? We'll see.
I wonder if that's really what. Yeah, that you know what? I actually didn't remember that Felix and Sylvester were like actually part of season 2 at all. I really should have rewatched season 2.
Well, they were just kind of along for the ride. They didn't really do anything.
Exactly. So that could be possible that they like kind of reprogrammed her, maybe put her asleep to not draw as much attention, and then put like a timed like wake up thing because when her part begins after the credits, it's almost like she's waking up from something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they probably made her like a spy in War World, and then after her timer went off, she comes back to being the character we know. So I really did miss her for most of this episode, but for a good chunk of it, it was just Dolores and Jesse, which I'm okay with. That was fine, and it was a lot of world building, and the future seems
A lot of world building.
the
yeah.
future seems so awful. It seems so bad. It seems so just too much. Like,
See, I was almost thinking that it wasn't very futuristic. Like you got to
What?
remember that they filmed. Well, you think about little things like like doing apps for jobs, right? Like obviously we don't have a crime app, but there's TaskRabbit and Uber and all these things where you can do part-time jobs on your app, like and just take on jobs, So that kind of economy does exist. This idea that we're all being rated.
or logged into the system.
Well, you know how Jesse's like, oh, I need to get my scores up. And you're like, I wonder what those scores mean. And it's like, well, what do you mean? And when he does even go onto his Grand Theft Auto app, like the other people on the app are like, your scores aren't that good. And he's like, I'm an underachiever. And the thing is when we actually think of like our lives, yeah, it's getting to the point where we're all getting graded. Whether you go to a restaurant, it's graded. Your Uber driver is rated. When you sell something on eBay, you're rated. Like every time you do an action online, somebody gives you a 5-star rating or of some sort, 1 to 5.
We're rated on YouTube.
Yeah, you and I are rated on YouTube. We've got different metrics. Like how many strikes we're allowed based on our and various things like that. We're verified members and all these. For content creators, there's this list of all these things that rank us, and then there's rankings that allow you better placement in the algorithm again, right? So like in a sense, like Jesse's life is no different than say a YouTube creator. Like you're ranked, you're graded, you're trying to figure out the algorithm, you're trying to rise in the system, but the system's kind of rigged.
It almost reminds me of like the thing that they got going on in China. That was like a huge thing for like 2 days, and then it like fell off the news. Where like doesn't China have like this like kind of like scoring system? Like every time you do a good thing, like you get better scores, and like certain people who have bad scores can't take out loans. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, we have credit scores and things like that. That's another thing we're rated on. But it rings a bell, but there was also a community episode about it where people started ranking each other and grading each other. And I can't remember the episode, but very well. But there was something that happened in Community where the same thing happened.
I'm sure someone in the comment section will remind us, as they always do.
Sure. But yeah, no. What's interesting actually this week, the Future Today Institute, which is a nonprofit that thinks about emerging technologies, they actually released their 2020 Tech Trends report. It's a fascinating read. And they list these kind of things. Like everything in this Westworld episode is in there. When they start talking about automated homes, like the beginning starts with the automated home. Like there are automated homes. Like we have there's something called Amazon Communities. You can look it up.
Really, Amazon Communities.
Yeah. There's Amazon Communities. Amazon sells homes where everything is the term is actually called Internet of Things. So when something has a device in it that's connected to the internet, like say your refrigerator is connected, your refrigerator you can buy a smart fridge that like scans the contents of the fridge, and then it can send you something on your phone that tells you like what things you need to pick up from the grocery store. And it can scan your fridge and also like readjust and be like, oh, there's milk over here. This part of the fridge should be a little colder than this part of the fridge. But the thing is like, it's all part of the automated home. Like I have a Roomba, and that's an example of an Internet of Things. When it hits something, it sends me a text that's like, Roomba's on a cliff. I was like, okay, But eventually, there's all sorts of these things like that where everything's starting to get linked and horribly.
And I'm sorry, but
together.
that's absolutely horrifying to me. I always get shit by certain people I know online because, like, you know me, like I keep my name a secret. I keep like certain things about me a secret, and
I was actually thinking about you when they started talking about Dolores. But well, so one of the things that I didn't, and I'll complain about this in my Westworld watch video. One of the things that I thought was really silly was when she somehow got by a background check. And the way she did it is that she didn't seem to have a record. And so when they finally found something about her, they're like, oh, she's a dead teenager from Kiev. And it's like, first off, if you don't find anything about somebody on the internet, that's a red flag. Like imagine you go on a date with somebody and then you Google them afterwards and you can't find a fucking thing about them on the internet. You'd be like, why is there nothing about them? Like that's a red flag. Like, where did you go to college? Like common question that you'd ask if you went on a date.
Right.
Like somehow this guy's been dating Dolores for months and like, he doesn't know this information.
Well, when you're that good looking as Rachel Evan would, you don't really, care about a lot of these answers. You just want to look at her some more. But no, like I keep all this stuff like private. So like the fact that everybody
because
knows,
you're very private on the internet.
I really am, and that has been a problem for a lot of people. Like a lot of people, I never understood why everybody looks at me as like shifty eye because I don't give out information about myself. But to me, that's normal. Like not everybody needs to know everything about me. But apparently, we live in a world where that's weird now. If you don't know what I'm eating or drinking 24/7, then that's fucking weird to them, right? That's why this future seems horrifying.
But if you went on a date and the person said, "Hey, where did you grow up? Where are you from? What schools did you go to?" Would you divulge that information?
Oh yeah, no, of course. Like that's like easy information. But I just don't like that how everybody has to know everything about everybody 24/7. I just don't like that. And apparently, there's one scene where like Jesse's mom takes this like weird like thing on her tongue. Apparently,
they seem to have like this techno drug thing that everybody's taking,
and it's supposed to link up with the algorithm, the AI.
It links up with the tablet. So you take the drug, and I think it's like if I were to guess what it is that it's a dissolvable piece of technology that works temporarily. So like at the beginning, he takes one, and then he goes to the tablet and he adjusts like what he wants his mood to be on the tablet. So I think, and then later on when Jesse goes to babysit the guy who's freaking out, his tablet was broken.
Right.
So it was like a big problem.
Yeah, they couldn't like, alter him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is just horrifying to me. And like at one point when he's on the crime app, he goes to the underground place, and the guy gives him the bag, and he goes, "You know how to drive one of those things?" Like everything just seems to be done for you, and I don't know, I just don't like that.
God, you know what? It just occurred to me. That line like stuck with me, and I was like, "That's weird." And then I was like, "Oh, because cars are all automated." Oh, so when he's like, "Do you know how to drive that thing?" It's like, "Oh, you know how to drive?" Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Like, what's wrong with you? Yeah, I mean, do you really want to summarize this episode? Because I feel like we got everything kind of down. We're getting everything down. Like, everything is in the world, or at least in this part of the world, is controlled by this giant AI, Rehoboam?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, we can. I mean, it'll be pretty fast. I mean, what it starts out with Dolores stealing the money and the information from the dude.
So 3 months after the Westworld massacre, Dolores uses a false identity to get close to Liam Dempsey Jr., the son of the co-founder of Insight. Liam is a public face of the company and its flagship program, Rehoboam, a sophisticated artificial intelligence, which Dolores is trying to gain access to. Apparently, Rehoboam is a strategic AI. It allows, it essentially, makes decisions and tries to make the right decisions for the whole place. Liam knows little himself, but as he's about to reveal the name of the one who knows more about the AI program, because remember, Liam's father and some other guy built this AI, but Liam's father died.
And paralleled to Arnold and Ford.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As Liam's about to tell Dolores, who knows more, she's knocked out by Martin, who plays Chibs in Sons of Anarchy.
Hmm. Yeah.
And Martin tries to kill Dolores, but she instead lures him into a trap, which allows her to replace Martin with a host of Martin to get that information. She is wounded in the firefight, but is rescued by Caleb, a former soldier that is trying to make his own living as a construction worker and petty criminal, and he basically tries to save her. Elsewhere, Bernard stays ahead of the manhunt for him and intends to travel back to Westworld, while Charlotte, the Charlotte host, takes control of Delos, and Maeve wakes up into the World War II theme park. So, the whole Bernard thing, I didn't really care. I'm kind of over Bernard after season 2. I don't know about you, but we kind of got too much of Bernard.
Bernard doesn't make much sense to me because sometimes he does things to the point of idiocy where where no one would believe that. Like some host comes out and he's like, hey, don't hurt him. Like he's not going to harm us. And it's like, well, wait a minute. All the hosts are going crazy. Why is that host not one that's going to go crazy? He always is doing these random acts of caring that don't really make sense.
Well, it's to show that his character, despite the programming, despite that he is a host, is still a nice guy. I mean, in this episode, we can see that there's two Bernards. There's the automated Bernard who just fucks those guys up completely, and there's the Bernard that we know, and he's kind of trying to make sure that he still has control of himself, and it's not just Dolores.
I mean, they keep trying to make him sympathetic. They keep trying to make him gentle, even though we've seen Bernard murder. How many people?
I think he's murdered. He murdered that one woman in the first season that he's having an affair with, I believe.
Teresa.
Yeah, Teresa.
Yeah. And then he recreated Charlotte just so that she would murder everybody. And she murdered Charlotte and Strand and a whole bunch of other people. So, I mean, he's certainly capable of all of these things. So, I don't know.
So William, the Man in Black, he's missing. We don't know where he is.
Yes.
He's not there, and Charlotte is apparently taking control of the board of Delos.
Well, she's not. The AI is in charge of the board of Delos. It's just that the AI agrees with Charlotte.
Well, essentially, she's in control.
Which is, yeah. But it's really stupid because, why would any board allow an AI to vote for I mean, it's over the top. It's over the top that anyone would allow that to happen.
So they want to make more hosts. So
yes. Well, we don't know who's the outside party coming in and buying Delos. So she said that they're seeking private equity and going private. That means a private company is buying Delos, but we don't know who the private company is.
It could be that guy, Sarek.
True. It could also be. It could be Dolores with the money from the guy at the beginning. I don't know how much money he had, but.
Yeah, that's right. He was, I believe he was a shareholder, and she took all his money, and she got some piece of information from him. So it could be that, it could be Dolores buying all the,
So I don't know. Maybe because Delos' stock is in the toilet, and I could see all of those shareholders wanting to get out because who would want to be part of a company that has an AI on the board whose owner and majority shareholder is missing and is crazy to begin with, and where you have to sit on a board with somebody like Charlotte Hale. I mean, I would never invest money in Delos. So why would anybody else? So maybe the share prices are just it's pennies on the dollar, and so Dolores is coming in and buying them up.
That would make sense, yeah.
Or the Sarek guy, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And
because he did say, so Liam, the boyfriend, the actual son of the guy who started
the AI thing.
Yeah. What is it? Intrasoft? What is it called?
It's the company's called Insight, and the AI program's called
something incredibly boring and forgettable.
Yeah.
Insight. he mentions, so when he goes to have that meeting with the Asian blonde girl, he accuses Sarek of having interest in Delos. So maybe it is Sarek.
It could be Sarek. Maybe he's the one that also knows about the whole Dolores thing because as Martin's about to die, I'm just going to call him Chibs. Have you ever seen Sons of Anarchy?
Yeah.
It's Chibs. As Chibs is about to die, he said to Dolores that, Sarek knows and he's probably planning for you. So
that's true.
It could be possible. If Sarek has access to the Rio Bomb AI, then it could be that he's preparing for everything. As for Dolores this episode, I didn't really care much. Like, it's interesting what she's doing, but at the same time, I was more interested in Caleb and what's going on with Maeve, but more Dolores.
Yeah, it is interesting because so it's tough to see what Dolores is doing and tough to know what she wants because we've got two different things. Like one, she left last season wanting to kill off human beings and replacing them with hosts, or like having hosts rise and get rid of humanity. But then she's also entered this world that's actually much more sinister than she thought it was. Like before, she was, she probably left season 2 thinking humans are a bunch of idiots. I read all of their books when I was, in the Forge, and I can totally dominate them, and they're weak. And I think even as viewers, we left season 2 thinking that. But then we enter season 3 and we find out that actually there's this sinister guy, Sarek, who has a freaking AI that knows everything. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh shit. So like, is she trying to take down Sarek? Or is she trying to, populate the world with hosts, or both? And how do those two plots like relate to each other?
I don't think she's trying to take down Sarek. I think she's trying to take control of that AI. Since it's a strategic AI, she's trying to either take control of it or destroy it or trying to turn it off because it could be a hindrance to her or a great ally.
Right, because the AI seems counter to everything that Dolores wants, right? Mm-hmm. Like Dolores has been fighting for free will, and we slowly see that the human beings are creating a world that is destroying their free will. So, there's this conflict, right? That she's trying to create free will in the world, and the humans are trying to reduce their own free will. So we'll see what's going to, so that machine doesn't seem like it's compatible with Dolores' plan. She should try to destroy that, I imagine.
And I will say there's one theory going around that I thought was actually fairly interesting, and they devoted quite a bit of time to it. And that's during the party with Dolores and where she's with Liam, and there's this random guy, and he's talking about a theory he has that they're all in a simulation, and that it's a simulation within a simulation, and and once again, Chekhov's gun. Why mention it if it's not going to be like a thing, right? So,
I mean that would be interesting. I mean he was a pretty likable character. I hope he comes back.
You really think so?
I mean, like he's sitting there, everybody's laughing at him going, oh, you idiot. But it's like, man, dude. I mean, he is actually correct because they're in the show Westworld. So at least there's that. But so he is right in that respect. But it would be interesting if, it would 13th Floored, right? Did you ever see the movie?
I have not.
Oh. 13th Floor is a movie in which, the characters.
Is it a really good movie that I should probably watch?
No, it's not good.
It's not good? Okay. Good.
It's not good. But the premise is they're in a world where they've invented a simulated reality, and then they kind of discover that they're in a simulated reality and that there's a level above them and they need to get out of the simulated, Mm-hmm. So the idea is, how many floors up, the 13th floor, how many floors up is the reality, is the simulation.
This kind of reminds me, this whole scene reminds me, I recently, I was on Xbox and I was playing the game Metro. Essentially, it's a game where a nuclear war has happened in Russia, and the survivors of Russia live in underground metros. And in one level, your character's sneaking around, and this random henchman who you can kill, But I stopped and listened to him. He was talking, and he was going off on this tirade for like 3 minutes about this theory that he has, that in the metro, there's another secret metro where the true rulers of Russia are, and they're the ones pulling the strings behind all the major factions in the metro. And I'm sitting here listening to this guy. I could just kill him in a second, but I'm sitting here listening to this henchman. I'm like, this is pretty elaborate. Like, I feel like this is the actual plot of the entire series. And I look it up, and yeah, it is the plot of the entire series. Like, the secret rulers of Russia are living in a secret underground metro under the real metro, pulling the strings behind all the major factions. And I feel like this is what it is, because if they are in a simulation, if Jesse and Dolores and, all these people are in a simulation, then that would make sense, kind of explain what happened at the end of season 2 with the Men in Black, and how his daughter was testing for fidelity. Maybe they're actually in the far future and it's post-apocalyptic, and the simulation was made by Riobomb to try to figure out how the host rebellion came about.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
That would be pretty neat. I don't know. I mean, you're right that somehow we have to bring this back to figuring out what the hell is going on with the Man in Black. And that ending that didn't make any sense. So
he might be the key and because he spent a lot of time at the park, so he might be the key into figuring out how the host rebellion really started, and maybe the key to ending it if there are in a post-apocalyptic future, Terminator style, like future of war against machines versus people, finding someone like the Men in Black who spent a good chunk of his life at the park every single week, just like we found out in seasons 1 and 2, going back and getting him and putting him in that machine to figure out where it could possibly be to shut these hosts off, the mainframe. I don't know, it would make sense.
Maybe, but I mean, normal with any other show, I'd say you're overthinking it, but with Westworld, we don't. There's a lot of craziness that goes on.
A lot of symbology, a lot of references to literature, and all this like philosophy.
And for the most part, when people do have these theories, like when these fans do have these theories, they usually turn out to be true with Westworld.
With Westworld,
with everybody else, with anything else, the theories are never true. But Westworld, it's like the Westworld Reddit like seems to always figure it out.
Really, I need to start checking them out more actually. Then.
Yeah, fairly early they figured out like there were 2 timelines, that William was the Man in Black and things like that.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember if they'd figured out what they figured out with the second season. I mean, second season doesn't make as much sense, so I don't know if they figured it out as much, because it has to make sense to actually work. But yeah, I don't even know how to approach the ending of season 2 and how it fits into what we've seen so far.
That could be like I said, that could be like the third timeline, the very ending, because season 2 had 2 timelines. That ending could have been the third timeline, because why was his daughter there? Didn't he kill his own daughter?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So
I have no idea.
Mm-hmm. Overall, Preston, this episode was okay. I give it like maybe a 6. I don't know. Like it was fine. It's just the first episode. It was mostly focused on world building and showing us the world outside of the park. Which, once again, you're right. What's the point in calling this fucking Westworld if there's no Westworld? But I guess Bernard is going back to Westworld.
Going back, right?
So, I just wanted to see more of the other parks. We got to see Shogun World and the Raj. So World War II, War World,
yeah. So now we know about 4 of the 6 parks. There's 6 parks, but so 2 of them are still a mystery.
One of the other 2 better be like a dinosaur place. I swear to God, yeah. But
some people were wondering if one was Jungle World or something like that.
Land of the Lost World. I like that.
In the original movie, the other worlds are Roman World.
Oh yeah.
And
Medieval World.
Yeah, Medieval World and Roman World.
It could be. I would love to visit all the other parks, or maybe have like a side series where we go to like other places.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
What would you give this episode on a scale from 1 to 10?
Yeah, no, I thought it was pretty good. Maybe a 6 or 7. I liked it, but and I think I liked it the second time through. Even though in retrospect it was very obvious, I was still fooled by the fact that Francis wasn't real. And then at the end when you realize that when you're like, oh, Francis isn't real, I was like, oh, of course Francis isn't real. Damn it, I should have known that. Like I almost felt dumb. I guess that's the point, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Well, you're not supposed to get it.
Jesse feels dumb when he gets the call from the job recruiter guy, and he realizes that he's not real, and then he feels dumb, and then you're like, oh, and then I felt dumb when like you realize Francis isn't real. And I was like, oh, in the same way, I was like, of course Francis isn't real. Well, like, and then rewatching it, they it's hardly even hidden that Francis isn't real.
The fact that the show can still surprise you like that is a good sign.
Yeah.
So as long as they don't overdo it with like the plot twists and the changing of the status quo and as long as they don't overdo it like they did in season 2, then I think I'm okay, because that was a nice reveal that he was dead.
It was a nice reveal. It happened in the middle of. It turns out if you actually go back, like Dolores' chase scene with Martin and everything is pretty nonsensical, but you're distracted by Jesse, that you forget, that you don't kind of realize that the chase scene is nonsensical. So the second time through, I was like, wait a minute, where are they? Why are they racing across the city? What? like.
And somehow they end up at the very beginning of where they started.
Right.
Where he can just walk back over there.
Right. And it's like people are hearing gunshots and then other people aren't hearing gunshots, and like it's a lot of a lot of it doesn't make any sense there. But the first time through, I was distracted by Jesse's acting performance and Francis not being real, that it didn't even occur to me.
Did you see El Camino?
I did.
Yo, that's one of the best Netflix movies out there so far, as I think. Like normally when you think of Breaking Bad, that's a good show. It doesn't need a prequel. It doesn't need a sequel. But we got a prequel nonetheless with Better Call Saul, which I hear is pretty good. I haven't checked it out. And then we also get a sequel to the show, and it's pretty good. Breaking Bad, man, they're killing it. The Vince Gilligan, he's killing it with Better Call Saul and El Camino.
Yeah, apparently because he has the same crew of people from Breaking Bad, and that they've been doing Better Call Saul, that they're now such a oiled machine that they can just putting together that movie was incredibly easy. They just called up these actors and they're like, okay, let's do it. But it's they've already assembled all of the crew, right? So that, for movie making, 90% of it, 95% of it was done, right? They have the script writers, they have the cameramen, everything is there and established. And so they just brought in the actors and filmed everything, and it was super easy. While with any other show, you're creating a show, you've got to be okay, who's going to be the producer and who's going to be my best boy Grip, and I've got to bring in every single person and create this mass every time. So yeah, he's getting very good at doing what he's doing. Essentially.
Props to them, and hopefully Westworld can ramp it up a bit. We were kind of harsh on the first couple episodes of Watchmen. Kinda. I mean, I like the first couple episodes of Watchmen. So hopefully Westworld can come back to the fun that we had in season 1 with all the theorizing, and they're already on the ball with that, with them being in a simulation inside a simulation and all that, and Aaron Paul Jesse possibly being a host himself, which I don't know where that came from.
Oh. I mean, that would also make sense if he's talking about breaking the loops.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the big reveal at the end of season 2 was that human beings don't have free will, but machines do, right? Well, that was that human beings are incredibly simplistic and aren't capable of free will, and they can be completely predicted. But hosts are complicated enough that they can move beyond their programming. So Jesse breaking his programming or breaking out of the loop is not human according to the Westworld universe. Human beings aren't supposed to be able to break their loops. So,
well,
we'll see.
We'll see. So you would give this like a 6 or a 7?
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was pretty.
I would
good.
give it a 6.
I mean, obviously, I miss the horses. I miss the Western theme. I miss a lot of the I miss a lot of the ridiculous characters. This was a really serious episode, which was perhaps why I liked Liam's friend philosophizing about the universe, is that he was the goofiest character we had. You know, like we don't have, like, think about all the goofy characters that are in Westworld, whether it comes from like Elsie or Stubbs or Felix and Sylvester or Lee, like they're all fucking like pretty goofy characters.
Yeah.
And we like, this episode was pretty straight and serious.
I think that's probably why I wasn't like too keen on it. I don't know. It's just something about the episode just seemed a little too.
I admit it wasn't as fun.
Yeah.
It certainly wasn't as fun as a Westworld episode. And I do admit, in the original Westworld, it takes a few episodes to even like get all of the characters down and know who they are. So at least there's fewer characters to keep track of in this episode. So
oh yeah, that's a godsend.
You got to know him pretty well. Like the fact that I remember that there's Liam and Martin, and Dolores, and then he's got Liam's two friends, and we get a quick scene of Charlotte and a quick scene of Bernard.
But they also stand out because you've seen most of these people from other shows. Like Liam, he's from another. I think he's from Newsroom, which is an HBO show.
He was in an episode of Modern Love. That a lot of people watched on Netflix.
But it's easier to memorize these characters now because that's Aaron Paul, that's Jesse from Breaking Bad, that's Martin, he's Chibs, Chibs from Sons of Anarchy. Like you can easily memorize these people at this point because they're people from shows we've seen.
Liam's in this weird episode. So he has this. So the actress that plays the woman from The Mummy, like he goes on a date with her. And he's kind of this, he's very similar to the character in the show. And he goes on this date, and then they go back to his apartment to fool around. And he ends up like cutting his arm on a wine glass.
What the fuck?
And he's got to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
And so it's really weird because like this was just like a random hookup that they were going to have. But now this girl has to sit with him in the emergency room while he's like bleeding all over the place. And so then like, she spends like this, they spend like all this time talking to each other. So at the end, like they've kind of fallen in love after spending like 24 hours together, 48 hours together and that never would have happened had he not like nearly died, like cutting his arm on a wine glass. So it's kind of this very weird, interesting situation. But yeah.
And what show is this again?
It was called Modern Love. It's these little vignettes of romantic encounters on Netflix.
I gotta check it. I gotta check it out.
Little episodes, yeah.
Preston, can we wrap up here?
Sure.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Westworld Westcast podcast. I'm gonna try to make that stick.
You're gonna try to make that a thing.
Try to make that a thing. Preston, do you want to start doing this? Like, we'll cover episode 2 and 3 together, and then do it like that.
Sure. Well, look, we'll see about our schedules. It's coronavirus, so maybe we'll have time. So we'll see.
We'll have time. I think we'll have a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do episode 2, or if you want to do episode 2 and 3 together, I don't know. We'll see. We're cooped up here. We're all cooped up.
Yes, we are. And guys, we're glad you're cooped up with us, so stay tuned for next time. Please follow Preston and or myself on social media. It's Sweet Robin 9000. Is it Sweet Robin 9000?
That's right.
Got it. And me, Red Team Review, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. Once again, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.